everybody. It is Deborah Bishop, and I am flying solo today. So, welcome to the New Earth Co-Creators podcast. I'm normally here with my beautiful partner, Isabel Hunt, but she is under the weather today. And actually, I'm probably sounding pretty nasally myself, and my eyes look a little bloodshot, but allergies. Normally, I'm not plagued by them, certainly not like this, but there's been such extreme weather. And from what I understand, it's going on everywhere. And we've had such huge winds and so forth here that it just got me. Something got me. So, excuse my nasal sounding voice, but I'm happy to be here, albeit solo and alone. I'm sad about that. I miss you, Isabel. But it will probably be a shorter podcast because of that. We do keep it to half an hour, and goodness knows I can talk. So you don't know, it may end up being a half an hour, depending on what we really talk about. And one of the things that has been coming up for me a lot has been this concept of what we know and what we think we know and what we don't know, and how all of this kind of fits into the world that we're living in at this point in time. Because so many of us think that we know what we know, right? We think we've got stuff figured out, but do we really? Do we really have these things sorted out, or do we really know the truth? What are our sources for the truth? What are we listening to? What are we looking at? What are we watching? What do we believe in as far as the source that we're going to and going, hey, I know that these people have got it figured out, so therefore I'm going to listen to them. Are we in that place where we have such certainty over this idea that we can just go right there and listen to them, and they're going to give us the truth, and that's just the way it is, and I'm absolutely going to believe in it? And are we also in a place where when something comes up that we maybe haven't heard before, or we don't know about, or it comes from a different source, and we're tried and true to our source, do we sometimes push it away and just say, oh no, there's no way that that's possible, there's no way that that could happen? Are any of us sort of running into this place where we just go, oh no, that couldn't really be true, and we ignore it? We kind of stick our head in the sand and pretend that it's just not possible and not happening at all. So of course we don't have to pay attention. Where are we fitting on this scale? And what does this mean to the new earth, to our community, to our economy? We don't talk a lot about the economy. We bring it up. We don't talk a lot about the new earth economy. And it's largely because there's a lot of entanglement around money relationship and cash flow and what it means, and do we have enough, do we not have enough, how do we get there, how are we going to get there, the price of everything, what does that feel like? And here in the Western world anyway, we're dealing with a lot of over the top realities when it comes to income and what we need to have and how we need to have it. And who are we listening to for those sources as well? Like, who is it that's really making any of these choices or decisions for us, and deciding that we should be happy, and deciding that we ought to truly be happy with whatever decisions are being made, and okay with it, and not question it, and just sort of shut up, sit down, and go do what you're supposed to do? Where are we fitting in any of this? Because it all affects us, whether we choose to look or not look, whether we choose to believe or not believe, whether we choose to consider or not consider. It comes to this idea like, okay, well, we all need to make decisions, right? But how many people really, really do? Most people avoid decisions as if they only ever get one in their entire life. And once they've made that one decision, oh my gosh, they're going to be stuck with it. And that's not the way life works. Likewise, whatever you believe is possible at this moment in time, you know what? You might change your mind a year from now and believe something entirely different. And if you hear any growling in the background, it's my boy Chicks who's looking out the window beyond the screen. I have a couple of dogs sitting back there. So if there's any barking now, you know why. So, what are we really choosing for ourselves at this moment? What's that going to be affecting how is that going to be affecting things for us? And how is it affecting the new earth as we see it? And certainly, how is it affecting an economy that lives inside the new earth model that could indeed, believe it or not, support everybody that comes here, whether that's excuse me, 1,000 people, 100,000 people, 100 million people, or 2 billion people, or 8 billion people in the new Earth model. The economy that we are talking about here can literally support us all, because it's no longer subject to somebody having to print more money, or somebody having to take out a loan or use credit cards or have to go work for some type of wage that somebody else has decided that you're worth. Whether or not you got the degree or didn't get the degree, can get that job or can't get that job, or qualified or not qualified. All of those things kind of, dare I say, don't apply in this model. It just doesn't, because we have the answer to all of that inside our own economic model. So why is it that we don't talk about it very often? Well, it has a lot to do with what people listen to and what they believe and how much they feel like maybe they've been led down the garden path. And when it comes to what could be really, really beneficial to us as individuals, it's quite amazing how often that's when we resist the idea of the garden path. That's when we say, oh no, I can't believe that. Right. But when other stuff is going on politically, etc., environmentally, we tend to listen to things that maybe make no sense whatsoever, because it's perhaps a little more convenient, or it answers a question, or it solves something that needs to be solved in that moment. Or we have somebody telling us, don't worry, don't worry about it. We've got you covered. It's not a problem. There's always that concept as well. I have this little squeak going on in my chair. I've never had before. It's irritating me. Uh, anyway, excuse me for that. I just don't want to be squeaking. So the reality of all of this. So how does it fit? I feel like I'm kind of all over the place, but that's also, I'm a little spacey, guys. So forgive me for that. And I don't have my partner keeping me on track. So this is total stream of consciousness conversation. There we go. However, it does all actually have a point, because it comes back to our belief system, right? Why is it that we refuse to believe that something could exist at this time that, yes, it transcends the traditional, fair enough. It's different, it's alternative, it's stepping out of the system we're currently in, which I think we can all agree is suffering right now. It's stepping away from that system, and it's giving us a choice, a literal, true choice that is legal, right? It covers it's absolutely, we want to play by the rules. We're not trying to break any rules. We're trying to just flow with the way things actually are, and excel in that way, versus become more subdued and oppressed. We want to actually excel and bless everybody and uplift everybody. And yes, I realize that could sound a little bit like La La Land to some people, and why is that? That's the whole point. Why does that have to sound like La La Land? And why does something else that maybe isn't so uplifting become something that people believe in or stand by, or say, oh no, this is where we're headed, this is what it is? I mean, why are doomsday preppers given more support than an alternative concept on how we can actually literally economically support each other? So that's the whole question of like, what are we listening to? What are we believing in? Mainstream media will tell us all sorts of stories. And if you haven't been paying attention, which I personally don't pay attention to mainstream media, but I see enough going across my radar screen. And I certainly know enough people that do, that tell me about the latest and greatest all the time. So I'm very much aware of what's going on out there. And if you really pay attention to what the mainstream media says, it's like, did they just print the same script and hand it out to all of the networks? Because that's kind of what it feels like. Yes, there are alternative points of view, but then in the alternative point of view, it's kind of the same thing. Are they too being given the alternative scripts, and now we just have these two scripts going, and it's the same conversation? I think there are people out there that are attempting to get more information to the people, attempting to say, hey, maybe pay attention, there's some other stuff going on. But at the end of the day, at this, all at the same time, it's about the ratings and it's about the sponsors, right? Who sponsors most of mainstream media? I mean, I have a name coming to mind right now. I'm not going to say it. I'm going to leave it up to you guys to figure it out. But there's been stuff released on video on YouTube. Bless YouTube for all of the things that are on there and all of the censorship that goes on these days. YouTube, you still have these really cool videos that run that are, brought to you by, sponsored by, this event brought to you by, sponsored by. And when you pay attention to that kind of stuff and you notice it and you see it out there, right? How can you expect a company, a corporation, a network to ever say anything against who's paying them? This is just reality, folks. They're not going to. And I'm going to bring it into politics for a second, not because I'm one side or the other or anything like that. I'm not telling you what you need to do, how you need to do it, or God knows I'm not saying how you should think at all. Please have your own opinions and your own ideas. That's actually what I'm saying. Have your own opinions and your own ideas. So when it comes to the political arena, same thing. How can we expect any of our politicians anymore that have any voice whatsoever, are in any position of power whatsoever, and whether or not we believe they have any power is a whole other conversation. But how can we expect these people in office that are literally being paid a lot, I mean, a lot of money by the lobby dollars that are just freely flowing through government, freely flowing, right? And all the different ways that the money flows in. There's a lot of money that flows in. I mean, just look at politicians that start and end their career, and they're multi-millionaires by the time they're done, but they weren't when they got started. How does that work? I had somebody tell me, well, it's book deals. It's like, no, it's not book deals, because it's happening when they're actually in office. So that said, put two and two together. Put two and two together. Just put it together, right? Whether you're practicing quantum physics or regular math, right? It adds up to an equation that actually makes sense, right? If somebody is paying somebody a lot of money, how are they ever going to speak out against them? How are they ever going to do anything or vote for anything or put anything before Congress or the Senate or how are they ever going to do any of that if it flies in the face of those people who are, in my humble opinion, this is my humble opinion, you do not have to agree with me, those people that are literally like making them very wealthy. So these are sources and resources that we have access to, kind of sort of in a way, right? And we're being kind of told things about it a little bit here and there. We're not being told a lot of stuff. And then we come to a place where it's like, well, here, what about something that is outside of that spectrum? What about something that doesn't have to feed off that, doesn't have to be built off that, doesn't have to be constructed from that formula, which I believe the New Earth creators, co-creators actually is. I believe we're here to create that next place. Because let's face it, we have a system in place. We can't just say, okay, forget the system, because that's going to leave a lot of people just not in an okay place. We don't want to do that. We need to create a different system. We deserve to create a different system, a different way of operating, right? So here's a different way. And not only is it people coming together and co-creating together, which is, something that we deserve to actually learn how to do on a large scale in this world at this time, right? We have to, and I don't use that word often, guys, we have to drop all of the stories from our past and from our history. We have to let them go to the best of our ability and let go of the judgments of one another. And I know that that's really challenging. Because here's the deal. If we keep fighting with each other, what's the end result? Right? And I don't agree with the oppression of anyone. If someone's being oppressed, someone's being an oppressor. That's like fighting for peace. If you're fighting, there will never be peace. If we want peace, we must establish a different way. And that's all we're talking about. And economically, that's all we're talking about too. But then it comes down to this really interesting thing. Trust, right? Trust of one another. How many people do you really truly trust? Right? I mean, if we can't trust all the sources that are out there that we're supposed to trust, I mean, what I think a lot of people have learned potentially that have talked to me, and again, I have no opinion on this. I'm not saying you should think this way or not, I'm just offering my own personal insight and considerations because I'm not even sure that I have an opinion at this moment in time because I don't have an opinion. Here we go. Can I talk in a circle a little bit more? I will stop that. So the reality of it is, it's like I think a lot of people have learned that they have lost trust for the people in healthcare. They have lost trust of corporations. They have lost trust of government. They have lost trust of media. And most painfully, I believe, they've lost trust of one another. You know, if this situation over the last few years has done anything, it has separated humanity in a way that has brought a certain suspicion and fear of one another into the mix. And as much as we're attempting to get back to normal, it's what is normal to begin with. And and it's hanging over us no matter what, because every time you see somebody actually wearing a mask, which, hey, if you want to wear a mask, more power to you. If you're wearing that mask, it reminds us of something. It brings up all sorts of feelings when people are like, hey, you know, I'm a hugger. I hug people. And I don't always remember to ask them. I do well now to ask. And I used to ask before too, because I know the boundaries of people. But there are times when I see people that I really so appreciate and I go to hug them and they're like, and it's like, oh yeah, right, I forgot. And then I don't mean any disrespect by it, but it's that fear. It's that fear of each other. And so when something really good comes along, something really amazing comes along, something fascinating and different, a way through to another reality, which exists in this earth, on this planet, in harmony, perhaps, with this planet, right? Who is in need for us to be in harmony with her. Because I'll tell you something, the earth will do just fine without us. And she has the ultimate authority over whether or not we remain here. As much as we think it might be in the hands of something, some other fate, right? The earth is the last word. And I do feel that if the earth becomes imbalanced enough within her own reality, because she is a living entity, that we're going to go do this someplace else. We're just not going to be here anymore. I don't see that as a horrible, terrible doomsday kind of expression, because as I said, we'll go do this someplace else. However, I just want everybody to sort of figure out, like, there is no real answer here. That's Sam, by the way, if you heard that jingle jingle. That's my other dog. He's very sweet, very little, and 15. He's got a few things figured out. He likes to just go sit on the earth and just vibe. He likes to earth. So the reality is the earth herself, you know, she's a great companion to us. We're here at her invitation. And there's no synthetic, no GMO, no modifications of any kind that are going to improve what she has available to us. Right? So I'm sorry to all who are in big industry. I mean, no disrespect. I think we've walked down a particular path for a long time, and it's been a very logical, very practical one. And in many ways, it has made a lot of sense. However, if we really look at what's happening, I don't know that it makes sense anymore for us to continue doing it the same way. We really deserve to start to do things differently. And I think there's a lot of little groups now that are doing that. There's a lot of documentaries coming out about that that are being seen in art houses. They're not making it to the mainstream screens all that often, but they're out there. There's a channel, Gaia TV. Gaia TV, check it out. You'll find some of the alternative documentaries there. There's an upcoming reality called Conscious Music for the People Festival. Yes, I am part of that. And that's happening on March 18th. Right? And go to Conscious Muse Collective.org and check that out. That's an entire movement where we're using conscious music and we're bringing videos from all sorts of people and snippets of documentaries. There's things happening all over this planet that are different and amazing. And we want to bring them all together. It's time, right? Why do certain corporations or individuals have authority over us? Because they have a mass, they have the power, they have the economic power this time or whatever. But we don't have to accept that as just the way that it is. We just don't have to do that. We do have a choice. We are sovereign beings. So let's not be so distracted by the idea that we, have to just go take care of so many things to make sure that we can possibly survive. If we're stuck in survival mode, then that's literally what we're going to get. Now, I am not thinking that you don't have to go out there and do stuff, and I don't mean have to, that you, well, I guess I do, that you feel that way and that's not the way. And if you don't go and take care of stuff, that the certain things aren't going to get taken care of. Yeah, that is the cycle that we're in. I totally get it. And I feel it myself sometimes. However, I'm going to say you don't have to do that with a reality as well, coming aboard the New Earth co-creation community and coming aboard our economy. We don't have to just settle for the way that the economy has always flown and say that that's the only way we can do things, because it's not. How many ways can I say that it's not? It's not. I don't know how many ways I could say it. It's just, we have freedom. And to everybody who doesn't believe that, please look in your hearts, in your souls, in your spirit, and ask yourself, who have you been listening to? Who has been influencing you? Who has created this dynamic within you that has you believe that freedom comes at a price? That's again like fighting for peace. Freedom is possible. You know what? None of us may actually know what it looks like. I don't really know anyone that is particularly entirely free because of the constraints and the different things that they feel they have to function in. However, what a quest that would be, right? A quest for freedom, a quest for peace, a quest for everybody having their needs exceeded, resources available, living in harmony, to where we're no longer subject to other people's ideas of what we should or should not have, what we should or shouldn't get access to, what we should or shouldn't believe in, right? I know this is a huge concept. Believe me, I get it. And I don't pretend to know exactly how it's going to play out. I just know that it can. And if we're willing to be pioneers, we can do this together. And if I'm willing to trust you, and that you will follow through, and that you will do these things, and that you will, that you can stand with me, regardless of where we come from in the world, regardless of what my past is or what your past is, or even what my generational history has been about or yours, regardless of what we call our religion or our favorite music or our favorite color or our favorite food or our sexual choices or whatever, just regardless of any of that, if we can actually respect life and say, hey, there's value, because we're all here really doing the same thing. Maybe just like babies who are born, like when babies are born, you put them together, they have no hatred and they don't have fear. Right? They don't have any of those things. They have no judgment. They'll become like best buddies. They'll love each other openly. They'll just go for it. And maybe we have something to learn from that. And maybe we all have something to learn from the idea that just because money has looked a certain way, thank you, Sam, just because money has looked a certain way for a while, doesn't mean that it has to look that way anymore. Right? And just because certain people have a ton of it and some people don't have very much of it, doesn't mean that it has to actually look that way anymore. And just because, we've known a particular model on this planet for a long time and moved towards that model for a long time, does not mean that that is the only model and that it has to look that way anymore. So I'm going to get off my soapbox now and literally just thank you for your time, because I have no idea how long I've been speaking, and so much for it being shorter. It could have even turned out to be longer. I apologize. I can talk, and I'm passionate about this topic. I truly, truly am. I'd be happy to speak to anybody about this. Truly, if you want to speak to me about this, if you want to know more about the New Earth co-creators, if you want to know more about the economy inside the New Earth co-creators, please feel free to contact me directly. You can go to my email, book Deborah, 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 here we go, Bishop, Bishop @gmail.com, book Deborah Bishop @gmail.com. Feel free, just put, NECC in the subject line or something of that nature, so I know where you're coming from. I'm happy to speak with you. Otherwise, if you know nothing about what I'm talking about and you just want to check this out, please feel free. Go to newearthcc.org, newearthcc.org. Don't forget an event on March 18th. Go to the Conscious Muse, MUSE Collective .org, Conscious Muse Collective. Is it .org or .com? Gosh, I can't remember. If you Google Conscious Music for the People, you'll find it. Excuse me, my head's foggy, but you'll hear more about that soon enough. Conscious Music for the People is the event on March 18th. So just Google that. Could be consciousmusecollective.org or consciousmusecollective.com. I think it's actually .com because we're the .org. So excuse my confusion on that, but you will find it if you go looking for it. And I just appreciate all of you. Please consider joining me in the New Earth co-creators. And even above that, please consider having an open heart and an open mind to new systems, new ways of being, new ways of thinking, right? To actually understanding that a new reality is exactly that. It's new. All right, everybody, much peace, much love. And remember, together we rise. See you next time.